going to talk a little bit about programs. We're going to talk about types of services that I think are important for students with disabilities to get in their school or training programs. We're going to focus on working with parents, so those of us, and I will talk a little bit more about because I love to talk about myself, but my personal family situation, as Dr. Cho said, I have 3 kids. If we let them live, there'll be 3 children who are 23, 19, and 17. Well, thank you. That's very, wow, I never got that one. But my wife and I, we started later than most. So where most people are at my age, I'm 40 years into this field. Okay, now let me stop here for 1 second. I'd like to make a personal statement. When you say something like to people, you've done something for 40 years, one of 3 responses usually happens. First of all, the polite people go, oh, wow, he doesn't look like he could be doing anything for 40 years. Apparently, none of you are in this room right now, so thank you very much. The second one is 40 years. That looks right. And the one you don't want to hear is someone in the back going, only 40 years? So it could have been worse, so I appreciate that. So, but having started later, we have a different perspective. And we have 1 biological son and we have 2 adopted kids. And 2 of our adopted guys are special ed students. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. So I'm aware of how the system works or doesn't work. And having been a part of it for such a long time, I'm really learning my lessons, and I'm paying my dues later in my life than I did earlier. So just so we know, okay? You are here right now and a chance for a conference, which you don't get very, very often, right? Once your year starts, you're up and going. So here's a reflection. Here's Edward the bear coming downstairs now, bump, 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 bump on the back of his head behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it, right? Isn't that the story of most of our lives? Once you get up and things are rolling, you don't have time for training or new ideas or anything else, okay? So this is the opportunity you're having right now, and I hope it's a very fruitful one for you, other than this presentation, but the rest of it will be very, very good for you. You'll get some good ideas and be able to infuse that in your lives or in your programs, okay? All right. Now, here's what we're going to talk a little bit about. Transition dreams and nightmares for both students and the adults who support them. What might work? What do we do next? Okay? All right. Now, for adults, what do you want for the young person or persons with disabilities who's in your life? All right? Okay, so let's see, and now here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm talking about the kids that I work with are 14 to 22. I know, and I am connecting with agencies who are working with people, so my perspective is that if there's any service or thing that I talk about, it goes both ways. The people who are feeding you clients, I think, need to make sure those pre-skills are being taught. And if they're not, then there might be something that somebody in your program can address. Does that make sense? Okay? The best thing is get the blame off of us. It's somebody else's fault on either direction, okay? All right, we're good. Okay, so what do we want? Productive opportunities for post-secondary education and training? Yes? Any argument? All right. Meaningful employment? Right? Goes along with meaningful employment. Relevant access to and participation in community life. Useful independent living skills. Can anybody argue with that? No, why would you, really? If you want to, we could. What's the point? Okay, now, from a school standpoint, we all know this question. Everyone is going to college. Everybody's going to college. Exactly, exactly. See, the thing to me is interesting, you can have, and this is no disrespect to anybody who has a PhD in this room, but if someone has a PhD in anthropology, and you're talking to Frank, the tow truck driver, and your car is broken down out in the middle of nowhere, who's the smarter person? Really, the smartest person is the person who provides the service you want in the room, whoever that is. It's a value. We have a very vertical view of intelligence, of good jobs and not so good jobs. But without people doing some of those not so good jobs, this was almost like my inner Mike Rowe. You remember watching Dirty Jobs, the different things? Those things that were all important to be done in our daily lives, but that's for somebody else to do. Okay, so I think it's really, really important. Work is work. There is value in work no matter what you do if you do a good job and you're making a contribution.
But in California, you have to make money.
Oh, absolutely you do. Absolutely. Yes. Okay, now here's the question on these are facts. These are all young people. Okay? For every 100 ninth graders entering high school, 74.2% will graduate from high school in time. That's still 26%. Where did they go? We don't talk about those people very often. Okay? 45.8% will start college by age 24. Now realize this, the schools that you're sending your students to or you've come from, they're talking, it's a college preparation program that only 45% are using. 30% stay enrolled a year later. Now there's the stories. Why are 15 people out of every 100 dropping out of school between their first and second years? That would be interesting to know. Okay? 22.4% earn a degree within 6 years. There are no more four-year programs. First of all, cost, right? Second of all, numbers. Can't be done. If any of you parents are paying for your kids to get to college, those are the real depressed-looking people in the back like, oh my God, okay? Yeah, I understand that. And 12% earn a four-year degree. So, it's an interesting system that we're supporting. And certainly anybody who has some situation that does not help them fit into the mainstream, there are more and more challenges for them. Now, these things are four-year degrees, and we all know the long list of four-year degrees, but they do a lot of talking anymore about two-year degrees, or two-year certifications, or 6-month certifications. Then work your way, keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay? A person who comes out, for example, of a community college and has a certification, has probably no debt, all right? And they're up and they're going. Okay? As compared to, not knocking people, one of our neighbors has a son, got his bachelor's degree in philosophy. He's always interesting to talk with, but he's working at Big Five. Well, let me explain to you the history of the tennis racket. No, I mean, that stuff is, it's not there. You know, I mean, the positions, what are you going to do? I mean, it's interesting. I think education for education's sake is great, but sometimes it's not very practical, okay? All right. What's the dream for students with disabilities? How different is it for them than typical youth? What do students with disabilities, their families, have dreams for smooth transition to adulthood, right? High quality of life, independent living, higher education, satisfying work, recreational activities, positive relationships. Does that sound unreasonable? No. Is that something everyone in this room would like for ourselves? Right? You would like that, right? Okay. Now, IDEA 2004, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, one of its great qualities was ensuring quality of opportunity, full participation, independent living, economic self-sufficiency for individuals with disabilities. Now, if you'd like, I will, at the end of this, on the front of it, of the presentation, just to make life simpler, I'll send you a copy of you send me an email, I'll send you a copy of the presentation, okay? And if you use it and use it as your own, it will burst into flames. But no, technically what you can do is, because there's like 3 original ideas and none of them are mine. But if you have some of the things like the college slide, I know gets people interested. So you just let me know and I'll send you that and you can put that together with your resources, okay? All right, now some of the nightmares, okay? All right, after high school, there was a national longitudinal transition study that was done. And it was pretty brilliant. They talked about it was a national sample, okay? It was 12,000 youth who in December 2000 were between the ages of 13 and 16 receiving special education services, and they were at least in the 7th grade. And the study ran for 10 years, and they would find out what they're doing. And they would follow them up after they finished school to see, are you working? Where are you living? That kind of thing. So it's really interesting data, and there's new research coming from that all the time. Programs get developed based on this information, okay? All right, now, compared to their non-disabled peers, students with disabilities less likely to receive a high school diploma, okay? They drop out twice as often. They enroll in incomplete post-secondary education programs, with at half the rate, and they're employed at approximately 1/3 the average. Okay? All right. Compared to their non-disabled peers, 3 times as many people with disabilities live in poverty. Okay, how many of you live in Sacramento or live in urban areas? Okay, you see every single day, right? The streets, people oftentimes find out people who have had disabilities and services drop off. Okay, once you get out of school, you're no longer in an entitlement program. You're in a qualification program. Hurry up and wait. Sit down, we'll get to you when we can. Nothing against anybody. There's a ton. The need versus the services available is extraordinary. If you don't believe that, ask a regional center worker how big his or her caseload is. Okay? All right. People with disabilities are twice as likely not to have adequate transportation. Okay? Less likely to socialize, eat out, attend religious services. Much higher percentage go without needed health care. Okay? Overall life satisfaction, very satisfied. Those without disabilities, 64. Those with disabilities, about 34%. Okay? All right. Department of Rehabilitation Outcomes with clients with mental health problems. A large component, whether a person has a disability, there's oftentimes a mental health piece involved. Yes, there's a big part of that is mental health. Clients with mental health problems, it's the largest client group the Department of Rehab works with. 25% of their adult clients have mental health issues. There's the worst outcomes of any group. Okay? All right. Mental health, mental illness in the justice system. 2 million people are in prisons and jails in the United States. Be proud. We're so proud. We're doing such a great job with that. 500,000 are mentally ill. Now, a question could be chicken or the egg. Are you mentally ill going in, or are you mentally ill because you're in? But there are 500,000 people. On the outside, there's only 50,000 beds in mental hospitals in the country. Okay? 16% of prison population can be classified as severely mentally ill. Okay? Schizophrenia, major depression, bipolar. That would be a certain circle in hell, I would imagine, being schizophrenic and being in a prison. Okay? Number of inmates suffering from mental illness and substance abuse, well over 50%. Largest mental health facility in the United States is? Anybody have an idea? Cook County Jail in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois. 30% of the inmates there have some kind of mental illness. Okay? All right, so here's the deal. What you always tell people? Say, how do all these stats make you feel? To a person, oh, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm discouraged, I've been working my whole life and all that. And I always say, it makes me feel free. Okay? Because no one's ever going to come up to you and say, Mike, that kid was doing real well until you started working with him. So the only thing we can do is not do anything. The worst thing we can do is not try. The worst thing that we can do is to give up. The worst thing we can do is just to go along with the flow. It's time we need to make some changes, and we need to make some dramatic changes. Numbers are not decreasing. Okay? All right. And there's a sense of urgency. As you know, school-based transition services, okay, are apt to be the last set of coordinated educational social services students are going to receive. All right? Now, regional center, fantastic. Department of rehab, fantastic. Adult service providers, fantastic. But the great masses of students, or soon-to-be clients as they become adults, that's their last shot. So there's a sense of urgency. And I think sometimes we don't do that because if anybody here is a teacher, you know how much gets put, the priority is, what can I put on your plate today? That you have to go out there and teach something else today. Okay, you got a kid that you're working with. How long does it take someone to learn how to read, would you guess? To really read, I mean, to read, and it's something we practice, so it's tens of, it's 10, 15, you're continuing to read to get better at it, to be functional, all right? When we start talking about getting people ready to move on from school to the adult world, it's like a 2-year process. Like some miracle is gonna happen when they turn 18 or 22 if they stay longer. Like there's some kind of thing, and then you're muscling your way to get around the algebra requirement. Okay? And this is what we do. We have, this is the struggles we face on a daily basis. And it is difficult. Now, the urgency is, no matter who you're working with, what you're telling them they have heard from someone else. Right? Anybody invented fire recently? Any radical thing that we've done, right? I mean, I'm repeating what someone else said that was important and hope the timing is right and the light bulb will go off. But for a lot of young people, it's the old Charlie Brown teacher in the background, right? Okay? Because they're also young people. All right, so that's a challenge. So here's the window of opportunity. It's not very big. And we're jamming things like algebra and world history from 1632 to 1847. Interesting things, particularly if you're at a cocktail party, you can drop names of princes and kings, but it doesn't help somebody get a job. Okay? All right. Because what's going to happen, and very shortly, is the window of opportunity shrinks. I've already heard this. I've seen your card tricks. It's not because I'm a nicer person that you're going to listen to me. And then what happens? It's gone. Opportunity is gone. And we didn't get our stuff together for them, and we launched them out there. Fly, fly, little bird. Right? And I feel for people who are working adult service providers, because people are coming in with motivation, okay? But they could have had so much more going for them had we done a better job on our end. All right? Okay. Now, it's school to world, not just work. Anybody just want to spend all your time getting up in the morning, going to work, go home, get up in the morning, go to work, go home? Now, how many people do that? That's always a different group. Yeah, there's a lot of, if I had the strength to raise my arm, I would. Yes. Okay. Now, what is important, though, is you want someone to have a full life. So it's world, it's not just work. Okay, that's important. All right, here's strategies we can use, whether it's in a school program, or whether it's an adult service provider program, or if you were just to find out at home, things that can be worked on, okay? All right, first thing, building transition partnerships with families, self-determination, including transition planning, transition-related social skills, positive behavioral intervention supports, innovative curriculum, fostering resiliency. These people are going to need to be able to bounce, right? Or they already have. Service coordination with wraparound, awareness and sensitivity of cultural and linguistic diversity. If they could get that opportunity, if students could, young people into their 20s, into their 30s could get opportunities for this, the outcomes are much better on the other end. Okay? Now, I'm going to talk to you about 2 of these. My very, very favorites. Building transition relationships with families And the most important skill, it's not how smart you are, it's not how good looking you are, it's not how well dressed you are, it's not anything else. What it is if you can be nice to people. Your options for going forward are oodles bit greater. It's not who you know, it's how you treat them. Really, really important to realize that, okay? All right, so talk about building transition partnerships with families. Being a guy came in 1979. Does that sound like a long time ago? Thank you. And all the people who are really my age are looking down like, geez, he is old. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so 1979, I was a classroom teacher for severely emotionally disturbed kids in Merced, California. Okay? So I had no idea what I was doing. Great kids, I enjoyed it, great program, great experience, learning curve, epic proportions, fantastic. I enjoyed it. And, but I would go in as a 24-year-old, single, fresh out of school, and sit in meetings and give advice to parents who were just about ready to explode. Well, if you did it this way. And the greatest thing that I realize now was no one ever came across a table at me like to hit me on the side of the head and say, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. So we go forward, do all my things and try and do some things. Now, we go forward. I have my older son, older son, when he was 14, had a psychotic break. Who knows? It was a very strange and dangerous time. We get into special ed, and then we didn't have enough on our plate. My parents and I, my parents, that is weird. My wife and I, ooh, that's a little creepy if you ask me. It's okay. There goes the evaluation. He was doing so well. I got a chill. Okay, so let's go back in time. My wife and I, we had adopted 2 kids. One was our Brian, my muchacho, Brian, who has a severe anxiety disorder. And the trick about anxiety disorders is if someone you know has an anxiety disorder, everyone around them has an anxiety disorder, right? That's just how it works, okay? So, and then Deja, his half-sister, oppositional defiant disorder. So we can have, interesting times. We end up at, and this is where my wife always makes me laugh, she's always much more upfront about information. I'm always the one who kind of held stuff back. And then in recent years, I talk about this stuff, and it's like, everyone knows, it doesn't matter. We'd have the police coming over to our house not for cookies, but for visits. And it would get to the point where we knew we knew most of the officers in Sacramento. Or the one night, one guy came in and said, oh, I've been here before. Like, oh, okay, thank you very much. So, as a parent, you are humbled, greatly humbled, okay? And these police, to a person, were compassionate and kind and thoughtful, and they were terrific. They were terrific. They were just what we needed at the time we needed it. And it was, we almost needed, though, it was like a special parking space. Please stay out of that parking space. That will be for the officer coming later this evening, okay? So, how it went, okay? But we went through the special ed process, and I was sitting on the other side of the table. How many people have sat on both sides of the table in any of these meetings? Okay? Isn't it an interesting thing when you sit on the other side, some 27-year-old guy calling you dad? Dad? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I know who my children are, and you're not one of them. Or mom. You know the meaning where people they can't call you by your name. They got to call you mom and dad as if you're going to forget. At this age, why am I here? Oh, I'm the dad. Thanks for reminding me. I just think that's so patronizing. Dad, mom. Call me mom. Call my wife mom. Well, mom, I don't think so. Is there something you want to tell me, Kathy? There was another child in our... We just worked out our will. We've got to get somebody else in for assuming our debts. But it happened, and we're just getting pounded. And we're getting, in some situations, we get people who are working very, very hard with our kids, and there are no picnic, okay? But it's like, well, this is how far I'm going to go, and that's it. And it's really, when you're on the other side of the table, you really get a feeling that there's stuff that gets said and done with no bad intention that's really kind of lousy. And that's, I think, sometimes the challenge for parents is to stay engaged, okay? When the phone rings at 6 o'clock every evening, it's rarely for someone when you have kids in school or having trouble. It's rarely someone on the other end of the phone saying, hey, just wanted to call and tell you what a great job you're doing, Dad. Dad, you could call me Dad then, okay? But it's not. It's like, oh, so-and-so had a problem in school, so-and-so cut school, so-and-so did whatever this stuff is, okay? And that's the system that we put people through. And then we wonder why, gee, she was really kind of edgy in that IEP today. What's the matter? What kind of attitude that mother has? You know, every single day you're getting reminded of what a bad job you did. Nobody ever had a kid because your life was going so smoothly. I just want somebody to provoke. Let's have a child. No. It's not the case. We've never done that. None of us have done that. Okay, you have a kid because you love them, hopefully, at some point. Tuesdays and Thursdays, you love them. Wednesdays, it's very touch and go. You never know, okay? Okay, so I'm speaking now. I can speak from both sides. And I don't say, and I sit in meetings now, I don't offer advice to anyone. Because I've been there where they are. I'm there where they are. And I sit around and go, oh, here, I could say this, and how stupid did that sound? But you don't know. So I think from a parent standpoint, those of us who are working with parents need to take a more compassionate view of what they have gone through because they had dreams and wishes and desires for their kids. And it wasn't, Kathy, you know what, I can't wait when our kids are in their late teens and 3 days a week there's police coming to our house. Oh, it's going to be a great time, don't you think? No, that wasn't in our planning book, okay? All right, so from a parent, all right, partnership with parents, it's one of the most critical ingredients in strong transition practices for programs for youth with disabilities. But it's real important we walk in the shoes of the parents, okay? There are multiple things going on. You've got, if you're gonna walk in a parent's shoes, okay, there's family variables, things like stress and trauma, right? Do you think parents of kids who have, young people who have disabilities are not up to their necks in stress and trauma? Okay? There's diagnosis, how diagnosis can change based on age. Okay? There's systemic challenges. I challenge you, if you can get yourself through these systems we create, they're really difficult. If you get somebody who can advocate for you and get you through the system, you're really fortunate. That's really, really good. Okay? All right. Parents can also have roles as collaborators. Okay? They can have roles as instructors. They have roles as evaluators and decision makers. Shouldn't parents have important says about what happens to their kids? No matter how old your kid is, it's still your kid. Okay? They know what's working and what's not working. All right? Wouldn't it be great is to have more parents involved in support groups and in committees? All right? They can coordinate systems, talk to people, talk to us and say, this is working, this is not working. All right? Let me go back a page here. A couple of these things here. We've got maturation, separation, normal situations for parents. When to let go and when to hang on. And a disability would allow you want to hang on with both hands because no one else knows your kid like you do, and sometimes that gets in the way. Okay, remember, we're going back to what do we want? We want the people to be independent, have good lives, all right? It's not necessarily having, Mike Laharty, their dad, standing around, well, what are we going to do today, guys? That's not going to work, okay? All right. Parents can be storehouses of information, okay? They know more stuff about their kids than anybody else. They can coach each other. A parent who has, and you give somebody who's been told for 20 years what a bad job they're doing, you give them a chance to coach someone else who's facing the struggles they faced, it turns their life around. And if it turns their life around, they have that much more to give to their child or to you in the system, okay? Parents are the ones who can be system change agents, okay? Now, when we're dealing with parents, here's an important thing to remember. And these are things, if you can't answer these questions, there's a problem. Do I really believe families are my equal and can provide expert information about their young person? Or are we, well, we got it on the calendar for an hour. That mother, oh gee, God, she's going to be complaining for 45 minutes. We'll write up a couple of goals. We'll sign it. We'll be out of here. No, okay? All right, so it's important. Do we really believe that? Do I stop to listen to what parents and young people are saying? Do I listen carefully to the parent's point of view? Do I speak clearly and avoid intellectual jargon? Tell me how many acronyms there are for services that we provide in this room. Tell me, okay, I won't even ask you to raise your hand. Well, I will, because my hand is up first. Was there ever a service you provided by an acronym that you didn't know what it stood for? Okay, thank you. Okay. I did make a, oh, really? Is that what it meant? I had no idea. Okay? But I mean, we have acronyms all the time. It's like a special code. There's the handshake. There's that special IEP handshake. Let me know. We'll let you, there's magic. There's magic coming out now. Am I aware and respectful of cultural norms and beliefs that affect families' expectations? Okay, you got to, that's what we got to do. We're going to work with families. These are the questions we have to answer. More important than, is my paperwork in on time? Easy for me to say, right? Okay. All right, now, here's the one I love the best. If you have time to teach one skill to anybody, teach them a social skill. That's it. That's the most important thing you'll ever teach somebody in this world. You drive around the world, you walk around the town, not just people with disabilities. What is missing from people in general? Social skills? Would you say that's a big hole? Okay. All right, what are social skills? Communication, problem solving, decision making, self-management, peer relationship skills that allow one to initiate, maintain positive social relationships with others. Okay? All right. Now, here's an important thing. I need your help. Social skills and the awareness of the importance of social skills has been around since the beginning of time. In fact, some of our greatest sayings are based on social skills. For example, treat others. Oh, come on. It's only 11 o'clock. If this was 3:30, I could buy this. Let's try this one more time. Treat others. Yeah, it treated me. I thought, okay, thank you. The way you want to be treated. Very good. I knew that's what you meant. All right. You get more flies with honey. Thank you. The best way to have a friend. Oh, see, people are getting enthusiastic. Okay. Now, don't start oozing at me. I don't like it if you start oozing, okay? What comes around, one of the great social skills of our time, right? The less you speak, the more you will hear. Very good. Okay, now, we also have, okay, social skills more throughout the ages. What do we have? Arguing with a fool proves there too. The great Doris Smith. All right? Politeness is a sign of dignity, not subservience. Okay, it's also Teddy Roosevelt who sent all the soldiers up the hill to be killed. So you got to put that in a different perspective, okay? He had a good day, all right? You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming really interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get people interested in you. Oh, Dale Carnegie, huh? All right. Manners are a sensitive awareness of the feelings of others. If you have that, you have manners. no matter what fork you use. Good, huh? All right. What does current research say about the value of social skills? That is, shows competence and social interactions crucial to young people to being accepted in general life. Competence in social interactions is crucial to transition success. Social skills are often proven to be the predominant reason behind successful work placements. Okay? How many of you work with someone who's really smart, has all the skills down, and is a horse's ass? Ooh, the hand snapped up. Okay. And you, okay, that's okay, that's fine, good. Because it's true. The skills, people will give somebody who is a pleasant person to be around more of a break than someone who knows all the skills and is obnoxious. Okay? In the community and on the job, appropriate social behavior may be even more important than academic or vocational task-related skills in determining whether one is perceived as a competent individual. Okay? Workers with disabilities who demonstrate competence and social skills, they're generally perceived more positively than those who lack those skills. Adequate social skills need to be acquired while the student's still enrolled in school or in a training program. Not too late. Further supported and refined in post-secondary community and work settings and at home. Okay? More important points. You got to have people practice social skills where they're going to do them. So if you're doing it in a job club or in a classroom, that's wonderful, but that doesn't do them any good doing it out in the street. You got to go out there, and it's difficult. Those of you who are teachers taking kids out, most dangerous, there's no, your margin for error. We'd have a group of seriously emotionally disturbed adolescents in residential treatment, and we would take busloads of them to San Francisco. Now, what was our margin? We were also in our 20s, so what the heck did we know? Our margin for error was nothing. To the point where, at one point, one of my best stories is, there was a young woman who was screaming that she was being raped by the staff, to the point where we had a prone container on Market Street in San Francisco and had police officers come up and draw guns on us as you're reaching into your pocket. I'm just pulling out my ID here. So it all worked out, but your margin for error, that's why it's so hard to do, to teach people social skills in unstructured situations, but that's where they need to learn them, okay? Neurons that fire together, wire together. Anybody here play golf? Really? Okay, there you go, all right, okay. Or you do any kind of thing that there's a routine to it, okay? You have to practice it, so you have to do it without thinking. If you were a golfer, you or whatever you do, you have to do it without thinking. If you think about each step, you'll never get it done. So that's why you have to practice, because social skills, they are like that. Okay? Skyscrapers. The young people that we work with are skyscrapers. Okay? Everyone is a beautiful 100-story building. All right. But when you look at a 100-story building, for example, where do you look at the building? Usually at the lobby or at the penthouse. Oh, it's beautiful how tall it is. Look at that beautiful building. Look at that wonderful lobby. Okay? The problem is, in our jobs, we're building floors 25 through 48. And I've never seen anybody go up to a building and say, look at floor 34. That's sensational. The skills you're teaching now, the opportunities, the failures you're going through now, those kind of things are all important, because if you don't build those middle floors, no one's going to get to 100. So you may be toiling in the shadows, but what you do building floor 37 is equally as important as floor number 1 or floor 100. Just no one else but the people you work with will recognize that. Okay? All right, and then you got to practice on purpose. All right, if a person has social skills deficiencies, they're going to have problems with aggression, peer rejection, loneliness, social dissatisfaction, academic failure, dropouts, trouble with the legal system, substance abuse, and not keeping employment. Okay, that's one thing that controls all those outcomes. Okay? All right, there's a guy named Rick Lavoie who does really great work working with young people. He did a survey on students. He said, why are some kids popular and some kids aren't? So he asked kids, what do you like? And they said they like kids who smile, who are pleasant, extend invitations, converse, share, give compliments, and they do things like they have a good appearance. Has nothing to do with, oh, I like Frank because he's so darn good in math. Nope, not the reason why, initially, okay? All right. Other things. What skills do you need? What do teachers say? Or what are the skills that somebody who's coming into a classroom needs to have? They need to be able to listen, follow directions, stay on task, know how to get help, know how to get started, finish on time, and finally, there's an academic skill. But those first 6 skills are all social. Those are the kids who will be successful in a mainstream classroom. Anyone ever been to Santa Clara University? Okay, you know where it is? It's in Santa Clara, for those of you who aren't sure. Okay? There is a center called the Markiel Center for Applied Ethics. There's a guy who runs that. His name is Steve Johnson. And no matter what room Steve Johnson is in, he will be the smartest person in that room. So if you want to be the smartest person in the room, make sure before you go in, Steve Johnson is not in that room. Okay? He designed a program for youth in detention facilities, how to teach academics, how to teach literature, and ethics at the same time. It's masterful. Character-based literacy. It's online, you can take a look at it. Some school districts use it, juvenile halls use it all over the state of California. It's positively brilliant. He thinks because kids are, when he starts working with youth in detention facilities, you talk about urgency, they better learn something quickly or they're going to be back again. Okay, so what he says is he was involved in research to find out what are the skills that people need to be successful in the world. Okay? So they did a survey, why do people lose work not person with a disability, anyone. Why would anyone lose a job within the first 1,000 hours of employment? First reason, didn't show up. Oh, today. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I show up today. Didn't show up on time. Oh, 10 a.m. I thought you meant 10 p.m. Didn't follow directions. Didn't start the task promptly. Didn't complete the task. Didn't get along with the supervisor. Didn't get along with the coworkers and the dreaded, here comes Frank, bad hygiene. Those are the reasons why people lose their jobs the first 1,000 hours. Wow. That's a lot of hours. It's not about you couldn't work the tools. You didn't know the computer program. It's that you smell. 1,000 hours. You don't get along with people. You don't show up on time. Everyone has to compensate because I'm in your group and I'm showing up late all the time. That's why people lose jobs. So what Steve Johnson did was he came up with, for teachers or work programs or job clubs or adult service providers, here's our rules we're going to follow. And the fact of the matter is all the rules are based on the reasons you need, the skills you need to have to be successful in the world. He came up with how to succeed in school and workplace, the basic 8 rules for success. Show up on time. Show up, be on time. Start your task promptly, complete your task, follow directions, get along with peers, get along with adults, have good hygiene. That's it. According to the other statistics we had, if you could teach someone those 8 skills, they're going to be successful. They're on their way. Because the person who has the skills to teach them, the work skills, the other stuff, they're working with a complete person now. They don't have to worry about it. I want to teach you how to be a mechanic. Well, now you're showing up on time. Now you're starting your task when I ask you. Now you're getting along with people. Now you're nice to be around. Now you're not having trouble with your other workers. We're past all that stuff. We're down to the meat of this. That's success. Okay? All right. So why don't we do this? All right? Don't have time? Anybody have too much free time on their job right now? Anyone foolish enough to raise their hand if they did? Okay, that's all right, good. Don't know how? Not my job? I don't teach social skills. Too difficult. Okay? It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Social mechanics. It's where you say it. It's with or to whom you say it. Okay? 7% of a message, you know this, communicated with words. 38% tone of voice. Okay? 55% body language. What will cause the next world war? We're living in the middle of it. A text. We don't know body language. There's nothing against anybody making a text. You don't know body language. I don't care how many emojis you put out there. That's not body language. Or tone of voice. So that's what's so important. People losing the skill to talk face to face. Okay? All right. So if you don't recognize or understand body language and tone, you've got a problem. Okay? Here's how you can teach social skills as a way. It's a who. There's two parts to this. And we do it like this. We do it so quickly. You don't stop and think about, how do I do social skills? There's a mental part. There is a physical part. Okay? You come up with alternatives mentally. You take in the situation. You figure out, what am I supposed to do? Then you do it. And you have to have either mechanics and you have to understand content. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And you might be right or you might be wrong. Okay? And if you don't know how to handle the situation, what do all of us, you walk into an unfamiliar place and you don't understand what's going on there, what do? You kind of close over by the wall, or you go stand over and get something to drink, or that's a skill. Okay? All right. Now, social skills mechanics. These are things we all need to learn how to do. Okay? And people you know who work with who don't have social skills down have challenges with this. Gestures. Right? You ever work with someone that doesn't have gestures down? Like, what is that? Or too much smiling? Or not smiling? I'm really happy right now, you can tell. Oh, then tell your face. It's okay. It's all right. Or eye contact. People who won't look at you. Or people who stare into your soul. You know, that there's no middle ground, right? Or predictability of responses. Okay, like, where did that come from? Okay? Or amount spoken, that someone just keeps speaking, talking. Or people, when they're talking, they just interrupt, right? Or this is always the weird and the interesting thing, gross body movements. Now, this could be, I'm never sure where the emphasis is. If you have gross body movements, or gross body movements, or gross body movements. I'm never sure which one that is, but it's one of those, okay? Take my word for it, okay? All right, now, here's the things where are you gonna do it? Because the skills are different. How do you interact with your peers? How do you interact with people trying to take advantage of you? How do you interact when you're in a bad mood? How does your personal appearance, how is that affected by how you feel? Alcohol, drug use, relationships, those are all important things. There's skills there, how to get through it. Now, we have a different set of social skills that we use with all these different groups of people. Do you talk to your parents and siblings the same way you talk to your neighbors? Not necessarily. Or business people and dating? No. Okay? Those are a series of skills that people need to learn. That's why it's something you have to start as soon as possible. You know, parents, we're teaching kids social skills from day one. And it's not something you can stop doing when someone gets into their teens or their 20s or beyond. Okay? Now, 4 groups of social skills. Okay? There are survival skills, interpersonal skills, problem-solving skills, and conflict resolution skills. Okay? Here's an example of survival skills. How to listen, how to follow directions, how to ignore distractions. We used to work in programs where people would have ignoring time, where the adults would go around and just like poke at the kids. And the kids would get rewards for just ignoring the stuff, but people would talk to them. It's a great skill to have. And it gets the frustration out by the teachers too, so it's a great thing. They feel better, you feel better, everyone moves on, okay? Using nice or brave talk. You ever have to talk yourself through a situation you didn't think you could get through? That's a skill. Okay, rewarding yourself. Remember the last time you did that? Probably not. Okay, but that's an important skill as well. Okay? Interpersonal skills, how to share, how to ask for permission, how to join an activity, how to wait your turn. Problem-solving skills, how to ask for help, how to apologize, how to accept consequences, how to decide what to do. All important things, okay? All right, conflict resolution skills, how to deal with teasing, belittling. Do the young people that you work with need to have that skill? Have they been through points where they're teased, they're belittled, they're bullied? Or on the other side, they do teasing because they were teased, or they do bullying because they were bullied. It's a skill we need to learn, people need to learn how to do. How to lose gracefully, okay? How to deal with accusations, how to deal with being left out. How important is that? How to deal with peer pressure, okay? Sometimes a person, you look at them and they're not doing the skill that you think they should be able to do. It might be an I can't do it problem, or it might be an I won't do it problem. They both look the same. So I ask you, can you speak to me in the lost languages of Lithuania? And it's, I don't know how, I can't, or I'm tired of speaking in the lost languages, you can't make me. You know what I mean? So it's one of those situations. Can't and won't look the same. You gotta find out what the motivation is and then go from there. Okay? All right. If you were aware of a tool you could use with a child, a student, a client that could significantly increase the odds that he or she move more successfully from school to world, okay? Wouldn't you use it? Wouldn't you be foolish not to? So teaching social skills is that skill. I know it seems too simple, but it is that skill. Obviously, it's not the only skill, okay? Because if you don't teach social skills, anyone here a Shel Silverstein fan? Okay? Where he writes, I'm making a list from where the sidewalk ends. I'm making a list of things I must say for politeness, for goodness and kindness and gentleness, sweetness and rightness. Hello, pardon me. How are you? Excuse me. Bless you. May I? Thank you. Goodbye. If you know some that I forgot, please stick them in your eye. All right? So the value of social skills. I have some final thoughts for you here, okay? And if you have any questions or comments, we can go through some things too if you'd like. All right. There are 10 commandments of transition, or so. All right. Transition is just a bridge between two knowns. Okay? The home school world, the adult world. Transition helps connect those two worlds. But you have to know what you're transitioning into, or you don't know when you get there. So that's really, really, I think, an important thing to remember. Transition is a bridge between two knowns. Transition's more art than science. Did you ever read a real good book on transition? It's like you're trying stuff all the time, right? When you're working on helping people move, it's, okay, here's an idea. Here's an idea we haven't tried. And you try it again, you try something again, you twist it again, you twist it again. There aren't like, here's 3 rules, always do. There is a lot of guesswork in transition. Remember we said at the beginning, it's trying. That's where transition becomes most successful, in the trying, okay? All right, you can't start too soon. So, in a world we're practicing, what was the book? Everything I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. Remember that book from long ago? Okay, a lot of those things are, you're preparing how to live in the present, but you're also preparing how you want that person to live in the future, how to get along with people, how to cooperate. Those are things you got to get going. get work opportunities as soon as possible. You don't just pick up the skill how to work. It's something we all have to practice at. Okay? Independence opportunities. You got to start as soon as you possibly can. Okay? And then you practice. Okay? It's like anything else you want to be good at. What do you got to do? Practice. Okay? All right. A journey of 1,000 miles. What's the second part of that? I like that, though. Obviously, we all haven't heard the same thing. Yours is much better than mine. A journey of 1,000 miles is not one I want to go on with children. I think that's the original. I think that was the same. No. I think it begins with a single step, correct? Okay. So the idea is the journey when you're working on transition for yourself, your child, your student, your client, it starts when you start. Well, you should have learned this stuff in 4th grade. Okay. The Wayback Machine is not working anymore. Okay? You don't have it. It's not around. So what you got to do is you deal with things as they are, and okay, we're going from here. Okay? Goal is not ultimately when you learn something is what you learn. Okay? All righty. Next one. Whose life is it anyway? That was my big lesson learning with parents. Well, let me tell you how you should raise your child. Okay? No, it's the student, the client, the young adult, the adult. It's their life ultimately. Now, does everybody that you work with make good decisions all the time? No. Well, otherwise we'd be out of work. Well, you could mess up and I would have job security for another week. It'd be okay. No, what happens is that we all learn. How do we learn more effectively? I think we learn more from our mistakes than by doing something successfully. You do something right the first time, it might be sheer luck. You'd have no idea what you did, and you try and do it again the next time and it doesn't work out that way. If you tried something and you messed up, you know one way you're not going to do it the next time. Right? It's all possible. We learn more from our mistakes than we do, and so it's really important to give people the opportunity to make mistakes in a safe environment. And the sooner they start making mistakes, ultimately, here's the philosophy, and I'll start stroking out right here. This is not the philosophy of a parent with teenagers. Oh, you should let them make all the mistakes they can. Not exactly. But you got to they make mistakes in a sheltered or in a protected environment, they're less likely to make those mistakes in an unprotected environment. Okay? All right. Use a team approach. Okay? Anybody here, everybody has enough to do on their own, right? But you're better, more effective when you're teaming up with somebody. There's other resources out there. There's other people with good ideas out there. Use a team approach. If the horse is dead, it's time to get off. Okay? Not pulling on the reins. Look, it's smiling. No, it's not smiling. It's dead. If something doesn't work, then toss it away. We're having some work done in our house, our kitchen. It's very exciting. The most exciting part is going to be my wife is not a collector. I'd like to, in case this gets back to her, I'd like to phrase this just really well. No, not hoarder. Oh, geez. That wasn't me. Okay, I didn't say hoarder. But just a stufficator. Okay? Something like that. So the fun is going to be restocking shelves. So I'm really hoping she's out of town for a couple of days and stuff. Because I would admit, there has been stuff that's disappeared. And I can do an innocent look as well as anyone in this room. I don't know. I'm as shocked as you are that disappeared. But that's important, is that if it doesn't work for you, get rid of it. Here's a technique we've been using in our agency for 25 years. What's your success rate? About 0. Well, familiarity is good. okay? But effectiveness is better. So get rid of it, okay? Try something different. All right, eligibility, not entitlement. You know, those of us who are working in schools, all you have to do is show up and we're throwing services at you with both hands. You don't want it? Doesn't matter. It's coming at you. Another service, another meeting, another service provider. Here we go. More services. Okay? Then the bad news is when someone leaves the school system, they've got to go, they have to qualify for services, as you all know. And it's not as easy to qualify for services because the rules may be different. You know, there's oftentimes that we do a lot of, I want to say this again, right? And I have been guilty of this. Our intention to kind of fluff and fold people, let's make it nice and keep it positive and let's do wonderful things because we're teachers of special ed and we love everyone and everyone's good, everything is great, it's all going to work out. And then people move on and it's not that way. So what happens is that if you can get a connection while you're building that transition bridge to the real world, man, I ran into a counselor, the DSPS, over at one of the community colleges in Sacramento, in a very gentle voice. He just laid everything out. Like, this person's in, this person's not, this is the service, I'm not going to go look for you. How many of us in Edgy go, we'll go find them, we'll go to your house, we'll go out there, we'll give you, that's not realistic. So sometimes what we do is we set people up in school with the best of intentions. At some point they have to realize, people have to realize you have to qualify for things, you don't just get them. Okay? All right. It's not just who you know, it's how you treat them. Remember going back to the social skills? That's an important piece. Okay, so it's not exactly 10 commandments. Pick up souvenirs along the way. You see something that looks interesting you might use down the road or somebody, it's great, pick it up, use it, you know, you're gonna use a service, an awareness of something, that's great to have. Pick up souvenirs. Be aware of barriers, okay, but focus on possibilities. Research states that adulthood now starts when? How old are you when you're considered an adult, scientifically? Legally, 18. Brain development people? 26. Yeah. So adulthood technically starts at 26. Now, those of you who have kids between the ages of 18 and 25, that is such fun. Because I just say, hey, I want independence, but I have no understanding of what I'm asking for, okay? So it's like the kids who, you get them through, they're gonna go, one of the things is just that we follow chains very carefully in our world, but we don't necessarily prepare everyone for the long-term plan. Transition is the only operation that prepares people long-term, okay? Elementary school prepares you for what? Middle school. Exactly, that's all. It prepares you for middle school. Middle school prepares you for high school. That's all it prepares you for. High school prepares everyone for, I know, your enthusiasm, I appreciate it. I share your enthusiasm. But college prepares everyone for? No one knows. Isn't that interesting? Okay? College prepares everyone for grad school. They say that BA is not worth the paper it's written on. So you got to go and get specialized teaching. So grad school prepares you for what? There we go. There we go. And then we'll wonder why there's debt. Ooh, there's 45 more majors I could take in the next 30 years here. Okay? No, realistically, how many people here have college-age kids? Okay. Okay. Well, in this day and age, I got a 42-year-old. He's a second-year college. That happens. That's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm going to be right there with you. Don't worry. But what happens is grad school just prepares the kid to move home. Right? Kids are moving home, coming back. I don't know, I got my advanced degree and I can't find myself, so I'm going to go work at Big Five and I'll be living in your garage. So it's like one of those things where we got to prepare the young people that we work with, that the idea is to get out there. The world is out there. That's what's really important, okay? All right, now, Greg Boyle, Anybody know who Greg Boyle is? Father Greg Boyle, Homeboy Industries, down in South Central Los Angeles, works with, as he would say, there's never a reformed gang member. They're just like, it's like alcoholics. You're an active alcoholic or you're an inactive alcoholic. You're an active gang member or you're an inactive gang member. He tries to help people get jobs and get themselves back on the straight and narrow. But he talks about people like us. You ever get a chance to hear him speak, it's sensational. And he comes to Sacramento fairly frequently. He uses the expression, we're not called to be successful, we're called to be faithful, okay? The deal is, if you look at success, the people you work with, how you define success would not be defined as success in any other business or industry or whatever, right? We work for very small increments of success, and we try and work on those and build on those. So the challenge is to keep ourselves fresh and positive so that never becomes not enough to keep the job. You know, people burn out in the job, it's just not enough. Okay? So the idea is, if you're looking at, well, I've got 42 kids I placed in jobs and they're all in, and that kind of stuff, which is highly unlikely, but you worked somebody moving in the right direction, okay? Being successful may not be the same term as what everybody else uses as success, but we're going to be faithful to the people with whom we work, with the families with whom we work, with the agencies with whom we work, because we're going to work with them, we're going to do our very best every single day. We're going to go home, prepare ourselves, and come back the next day and do it again. And there's nobody in this world who can do that except us. Okay? There's nobody who would do this. How many people have friends who you tell them what you do for a living, and they're either aghast, or they're like, well, or the best one always is, oh, I certainly wouldn't have that kind of patience. Yeah, lucky for you that, yeah, that Mercedes-Benz payment wouldn't be coming either. So you got to be, you have gifts. We have gifts. Okay, they may not be viewed as important by the rest of the world, but you're making an impact on people every single day. And it may be small steps, it may be baby steps, but that's what it is. It's really, really important. So we don't lose hope on that. Yes?
How do we encourage the professionals in our lives to write more effective IEPs?
Well, anyone who would call a parent mom or dad, then you call them teacher or principal. No, what I would do is I think a person has to advocate pleasantly. I would remind the teachers and the students I work with, self-advocacy is a real important part of transition. And part of self-advocacy is writing one's own goals, or at least some of one's goals. So my suggestion would be is to say, I'd like to write some of my goals for my IEP. And you go a little bit at a time. The sooner you start, the better it's going to be. Does that make sense?
Yes. And the goal I'm talking about specifically is the one that starts with the words, and we're all familiar with these words, after high school, I will, and then there's no meaningful focus on the I will.
Okay.
Part of that statement.
I hear you. My experience has been, how many people in this room are doing what they wanted to do, what they said they were going to do at 17? Good. No, there's always a couple of people, that's fantastic. There's a lot of time and aggravation. Okay? So we have a couple, okay? Yeah. Fantastic. If that's...
Yeah.
Go ahead. Let me finish up this one point, and then I want to hear that your question, please. So what happens is, after high school, I always say that's your time to dream. Okay? I was going to play professional basketball until I'd never played against someone who was 7 feet tall. I went to college and played basketball, and I had Voight written across my forehead by some guy who was 7 feet tall and wasn't even that good. I mean, there's all of a sudden life experience. The idea is to stay, using another golf thing, stay in the fairway. We're going to figure things out as we go. You're going to figure the career you want to have, or the work you want to have, but you don't have to commit to it. No one's going to say, okay, when you were 15, you said you were going to be a ballerina. I'm sorry. That's what you got to do. You know, we're all changing our ideas. Man, I had 6 majors, so, you know, it was fun. There was a lot of classes, so. Question, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Right. It's actually more of a comment, really, and sort of in response to the point that was raised about motivation. When I was a teenager, I would actually go to things like this, where I would be getting relevant information about the adult transition, which I found very helpful then in getting that motivation and realizing, oh yeah, this is important, I should be thinking about this, etc. So that was a really, really great talk. I found myself constantly nodding and agreeing and being like, yes, yes, I'm glad that somebody is saying these things, but I think that we actually need the teenagers whose lives, as you pointed out, it is in fact their lives, to actually be here and getting this information. Yeah.
I agree. Thank you. Good point.
Good.
Yes. Sorry, you'll be next. Go ahead.
My next question is, in them participation in their living skills with the training that we do give to them, because my son is 8. And he's being bullied and a bunch of things are happening, and I've been doing what I could to teach him as a parent what to expect and what not to expect. And when he's hurt, I'm the one who deals with it. Nobody else is there picking up the, you know,
Okay.
and I'm trusting other professionals to take care of him who are not providing the right maintenance skills for my child to persevere in this field. And the teachers and the other professionals have dropped the ball, and I'm only one person.
But sounds like you're doing
What do I
a lot. You're doing right. It sounds like you're doing well. The thing is, this goes back to what we were saying earlier about parents, as I know. Who knows your kid better than you do? Who's not going to be the one who's going to stop pushing? You know, when the meeting's over and everybody goes home, we go home and we got to deal with the things. And I agree with you. No, I would encourage you keep doing what you can and keep bringing it back up to people. But there is no guarantee, as you know, that the other people they're certainly not going to care as much as you do. Okay, sure.
Thank you so much for the phenomenal presentation. You were amazing presentation.
Speak slowly. It's okay.
Yes.
Take your time. It's all right. It's okay.
Very amusing.
I
and
got
just
extra time. Yeah, go
engaging. But I just wanted to, I really appreciated your points to the idea of transition starting as early as possible. And speaking as both a professional and a parent, I think a lot about how these ideas most of the time are not surfacing until a child becomes teenager,
Right.
preteen. What charge would you give to the early interventionists that are in the room, or even parents who are just getting this diagnosis or getting a diagnosis and their child is before 8 or even before 3, an early start? So what would you say when it comes to what types of things they need to do, start thinking about right now, maybe putting down on paper or being very intentional about, that will help them start that transition process?
Okay, now that's probably a 5-day interactive thing we could do, not today, but we could do, but I think everything you do, if you can make it relevant, then it's more likely to stick. You know how much junk? Okay, let's go back to 6th grade. It was a Tuesday. Your world history lesson. You remember it? Probably not. Okay, but the fact is you might remember somebody taught you something. My example I often use is, okay, if you wanted to learn how to cook, okay, and you probably were taught to cook by somebody who wasn't a teacher, but they had an ability, okay, and they didn't go sit you in a room and slide a book over to you and say, we're going to read about cooking, and then we're going to give you a little certificate at the end and you're a cook. No, it was probably, I'm going to guess for myself, it was my grandmother. We're going to bake, we're going to cook, we're going to have flour all over ourselves, we're going to try this again and again, it's going to be great. And we practice and we have fun, and all these things I'm learning, and that's the stuff I remember now, years ago, okay, because it was relevant. So when you're teaching your child, I teach my kid and say, why do I have to do this? Well, because this will help you get and keep a job later on. And you're going to kind of echo that again. It's like having, you're going to get, if you want, here's something I might even suggest, is that list of the reasons why people lose their jobs. If you kept those other rules and had those 8 rules up on the wall, these are the rules you need to follow. And if you follow those rules, you're more likely to be successful. It's not easy, but if you learn how to get along with people, that's a social skill that's going to benefit you down the road. You learn how to complete a task, how to take a turn. Those are 3-year-old kids practicing for a transition already. That make sense?
The UC Davis Mind Institute was created in 1998 with a promise to find cures for neurodevelopmental disorders. Every day, our physicians and researchers come closer to fulfilling that promise. Their groundbreaking research on autism, Fragile X syndrome, chromosome 22q11.2 deletion syndrome, ADHD, and other brain disorders are helping children achieve their fullest potential. Please visit our website to find out more about current studies, upcoming events, and how you can help make a difference.